and
Right.
guys ran off with those, and that cost them. Um, okay, so let's I'm gonna transition a little bit now into that single parent. Um,
Good.
so now their goal, or as they look at the tree that you had referenced earlier, which I like that analogy. They're saying part of what they want to be able to do is two things. Let's say they want to invest for their own retirement,
Mm-hmm.
and then maybe it's not maybe invest in their children's college education.
Mm-hmm.
Two different kind of investment strategies. So this person may have been working for a while, uh, may not have a significant amount of money saved, but still kind of looking at how or what are some things that I need to know. Going back to the literacy part, as I look at preparing for my son or daughters or children's college education, what might they want to be mindful of or knowledgeable about to get ready to prepare for that?
So, one, there's no one size fits all approach. It
Hmm.
can be done in more than one way.
Hmm.
I think one of the biggest things we need to understand is that we need to make that more of a priority and treat it like a bill as well.
Mm.
What I found is that when I'm having a conversation with people, the reason they're struggling to put away with saving for college is because they don't have it listed as a bill, right? You've got to
Ooh.
almost treat that like it's a bill too. And when you know it's a bill, something that you have to pay, you're more likely to make sure that money gets allocated towards it. But there's no one set way to do it. You hear about 529 plans. You
Hmm.
hear about people doing, your traditional savings route. Some people
Hmm.
want to go and put it in the market. There's no one size fits all approach. There's more than one way to get there. Some
Okay.
people are fortunate enough to receive scholarships, but
Okay.
the sooner you start, the better,
There we
right?
go.
Because
There we
again,
go.
we talked about interest, and the thing about interest is interest can compound,
Hmm.
right? So sometimes it can compound exponentially. This may not be exactly how it goes, but it's in a sense where one can grow to two, two can grow to four, four can
Hmm.
grow to eight, eight to 32, so it can be, experience that kind of growth, but that can only happen if you start sooner and allow it to work, right? Compound interest only works at its optimal designed way to work when you allow
Hmm.
it time. If
Hmm.
you don't allow compound interest time, you're not going to experience the true fruits of compound interest. You might experience some of it, but not
Right.
the true fruit from starting earlier. So the when these people when these kids are born,
That was gonna be my next question, Mike. Like
starting them
when?
with savings accounts, starting them with
Gotcha.
savings accounts right away.
Okay.
And again, people don't realize, starting with just $50 a paycheck when that child is an infant up until the time that they're 18. If you stay consistent with just $50 a paycheck, that still would be a significant amount by the time you consider the amount of interest it could have gained.
Hmm.
Now, eventually, you hope to be to the point that you can contribute more than 50, right? And what
Mm.
if you're able to do that? Now that account
Right.
can grow even more. But
Right.
again, it's going to require discipline. It's going to require sacrifice, and it's going to understand that you have to make sure that this happens. Otherwise, you're setting your child up to be in a situation where they may have to take out a lot of student debt.
No. Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and that's not that that's a bad thing, right?
Right.
But I feel like, as parents, I feel like as single fathers, what we can do is do all we can to set our children up for success by starting early.
Mm.
A lot of times, what I have seen, what I have found, is the children who are behind their counterparts. The difference was when their parents started. Right
Mm.
now, it's not a bad thing that some have to get started later than others. I'm not knocking.
Right.
Everybody's situation is going to be different.
Right. Right.
Right. But if we can make it a priority to make sure that, especially as single parents, especially single fathers,
Right.
we make sure to make the initiative and make sure that our kids have that investment in them from the beginning,
Right. Right.
we can set them up to experience those financial futures that we want them to have. So,
Wow. I the, I'm going back to that first thing you said. Treat it
let's
like it's
do
a
it.
bill.
Treat it like
That's
it's a bill.
that's. I think for a lot of parents, it- that's. I don't know if that's a paradigm shift or where I'm trying to. I can't really come up with one. But the way to what you said, I think when we look at it and educate ourselves to start as early as we can, the benefits are wow. That's tremendous. And I can't say this. I I'm gonna say SPR. So I did the 529 route
Okay.
years ago, and I did I start at the infancy? No, I did not. But when I did start into where it grew to, I was very. It was almost like it became such a part of what I was doing. I didn't even realize I was doing it because
Right.
the money didn't come into my hand, and I did something with it.
That, my
Um,
friend, we call autopilot.
yeah.
That's the place you want to be in. Yep.
Yeah. So I was, and much like yourself, I was very blessed that somebody had educated me on that early, because not every student's gonna get a scholarship. Some do, some don't. Not every
Right.
price, every school's the same. But to your point, to treat it like a bill, I wrote that down. I definitely wrote that down. Um, so let's move now. So now we're talking the retirement aspect. And not to like say I didn't just want to get down in the weeds, but just kind of maybe give that single parent say, hey, we got your younger children, got them set up with their savings and
Mhm.
got them in a vehicle that's giving them some interest. We've got you set up with the cost saving mechanism, and now it's to move into that third aspect, their retirement. Again, going with the literacy concept, what are some things that or terms that you might put on that radar screen and say, hey, be mindful of these three things or this thing as we start talking about your retirement?
Definitely. And again, I won't endorse one product or the
Sure.
other or
Of
anything
course.
like that. Obviously, you want to do your own research when you go in anything, but you think of words like 401k.
Hmm.
You think of words like brokerage accounts. You think
Hmm.
of words like Roth IRA,
Okay.
or even traditional IRA. Those are
Okay.
some of the more common ones. I mean, when you think IRA, that stands for individual retirement account,
Okay.
right? 401k, that's typically through your employer.
Hmm.
Brokerage accounts allow you the access to be able to, tap into the stock market. Maybe if
Hmm.
you want to do that, if that's the route you want to go. No
Hmm.
right or wrong approach. Again, I told you there's more than one way to get there. All
Hmm.
right. The biggest thing is you have to find what it is you want to do and commit to it.
Hmm.
Commit to it, treat it like a bill, and make whatever path you choose, whatever avenue you choose, successful for you. But I like all of those.
Okay.
There's different places that you can go to get those.
Okay.
But again, those are some of your more common ones: the 401k,
Okay.
brokerage accounts, Roth IRA, traditional IRA. There are plenty of ways to do it. Those are, you said three or four.
Yeah.
That's what I would say as words that come to mind there.
Okay. So in that education lane again, because it seems to be so many do this and get rich quick
Hmm.
opportunities, and you
Yeah.
get inundated in emails and stuff. I see is like, I don't know about that one. That sounds risky. Uh, and again, not to get into any platform in particular, um, what would you? I don't know where it is it advise or just be mindful of? Because I think the education, like I'm big on that one. That's what I do. Is just making sure that people understand before they take their hard-earned money um, and
Mhm.
put it somewhere that it's not going to deliver what they expected. I mean, maybe is there something that maybe you tell them to, I don't know if you just start reading something or watching something, or what would you tell them maybe to just kind of continue to stay educated? Because I'll just say what it is. I'm blessed to have met you, but maybe not everybody has a mic that they can pick up the phone and call and say, hey, I just got a call about X. They're sitting at home like, well, sounds good. So kind of a long way of just saying what might be some cautionary things you might tell somebody to just be mindful of when it comes to their
So
retirement.
one, the promise of guaranteed returns. When you see
Mhm,
stuff like that, that's one of your big red flags there.
mhm,
When you see stuff like, act now or you'll miss out, so they're trying to play on that FOMO, that fear of missing out. You got to be careful with stuff
mm,
like that.
mm,
I've always encouraged people to just do research, right?
mhm,
A lot of times the answers that we're looking for can just be found if we read the fine print.
mm.
And it doesn't require you a lot of times to have some sort of advanced degree to understand what the fine print says.
Okay.
Sometimes the advanced degree is just essentially us reading the fine print.
Right.
Um, a lot of the questions that we have, oftentimes the risk is laid out right there in the fine print, but
Okay.
we're so ready to, wake up tomorrow and be a millionaire. That'd be
Yeah.
great, but is that always the case? Not realistic, right? It can
Right.
happen, but it's not
Right.
always realistic. So doing your research, reaching out to your local financial advisors, your local
Okay.
financial institutions, these are places you should be able to go and trust with information that, they may be able to dive deeper in or provide you more information with some of the fine print items you may not recognize.
Uh-huh.
But I always encourage people to just read,
Right.
just read.
Wow. Wow. And is there because I know with the different age groups, the young millennials and the Generation X's and things of that nature, where
Mhm.
people are working longer in their years, and a lot of people jump around different careers. Does the retirement matter? One, a two-part question on if do you need to stay at the same company 35 years? And then the second part is, does your age factor in? And I'm speaking to somebody that may not be knowledgeable on either. They just hear about it and they're like, okay, I see these two brothers talking about it tonight. I want to do it. And it may be concerned, so does jumping around companies matter? And then the second part is, does your age matter?
So as far as your retirement, so let's back up a little bit. So
Hmm.
generally with most employers, I won't say all, there's a 401k that comes with employment.
Okay.
Right now, there may be a situation where you do stay with the company for 35 years. Boom, that an ideal scenario, you don't have to worry about moving your 401k from here to there,
Hmm.
so on
Hmm.
and so forth. Right.
Hmm.
So is it a bad thing to stay in a company for 35 years, especially from a retirement standpoint? No. But if
Hmm.
you do bounce around, what you will have to consider doing is how you can make sure that you get your 401k from one place to another.
Okay.
Because what I have seen is individuals will move, but their 401k will stay. They're no longer contributing to that 401k,
Mm.
yet your 401k balance is reducing because of the fees that are being deducted each month. So you want to be
Mm.
mindful, of that. There may be times where you need to maybe look at rolling it over into some sort of an IRA. Again, you
Okay.
want to consult with your tax professional to determine tax implications and things like that.
Right.
But again, either way, you want to make sure that some kind of way when you do move or if you do change jobs, that
Uh-huh.
you are still finding a way to actively contribute to your retirement accounts and keep tabs on your retirement accounts. I can't stand when I
Mm.
hear people say, yeah, I got one, but I ain't logged into that thing ever. Well, how you know how do
Same
you know
line.
it's performing the way that you need it to? Or what if they invested you in something that you don't
You don't even
necessarily
know.
need to be in, or that kind of stuff. So that one is troubling because I feel
Right.
like, especially as single men, especially as men just in general,
Mhm.
we when you hear it preached that we should be the heads of households, right? A lot of being the head of the household means being financially literate, right?
Mm.
Or financially responsible, right?
Mm.
When you're talking about leading, whether it be from a single dad standpoint or even you being married, right? When you're
Right,
talking
right,
about being the head of the household, sometimes that revolves around you being head financially.
right.
So how can you be head financially if you're not being a good steward over knowing where your 401k is, how it's performing? Are you losing money? Should you be talking to somebody about having it allocated differently? What
Mm.
is your risk tolerance? I mean, we could get into the weeds. It's tough. It's tough when I got to stay at the baseline because
Hey,
this is what I love. But
look,
again, I'm a firm believer that when you have these types of dialogue, you've got to make sure that even a child can understand it because then it's easier to grasp. Yeah. So
wow, wow. I'm gonna say this because I already naturally feel I want to get into weeds already,
I know,
as it
man. I
is.
know. We have
I
to do
know,
another conversation.
but that's something I definitely got to get you back on here, because again, you just briefly touched on, the head of household and the mindset. I think there's so much that you and I could talk about,
That
just
could
have
be
a
its own
conversation
show. That could be its
about
own show, man.
just that in itself, and what fathers, single fathers, single moms for that matter too, just leading in more than just the day-to-day lives, the financial aspect of it. Man, you didn't drop some nuggets on me. I wrote a couple of them down, so I got some notes here. What I would ask you before and I'm not big on the goodbyes part, if there's one, two, three things that you'd want to just leave it today, because we're going to pick this back up. I promise you that.
Okay.
You are coming back.
Okay.
Might you say for somebody that's listening to us now, such that when they follow us the next time we have this conversation, they're like, "Oh, I thought about that a little bit more." What might you leave them with?
So when we leave today, the biggest thing I would tell you is to start with your mind, right?
Mhm.
We've got to have a transformation mindset shift as we look to want to have this conversation further. So what I often tell people when you're on a financial journey, so the destination is the starting point and often one of the most relevant factors when it comes to preparing for your financial future, right?
Mm.
But you can't prepare for your financial future if you haven't had the mindset shift to be able to dive deep into those types of thoughts, right? So you've got to be able to dive into the inner workings and be able to explore your mindset in a way that you can handle the depths of where your journey is going to carry you financially. Because the truth of the matter is, it won't always be high, it won't always be low, it won't always be straight, it won't always go left, it won't always go right, right?
Mm.
There's going to be times and situations where you've got to be able to have the mental fortitude and the mental capacity to make sure that you can absorb everything that your financial situation can throw at you, right? So,
God.
this is my trouble sometimes with the quote unquote experts, the gurus,
Right.
or those life coaches, right? I'm not gonna name anybody, but everybody always says, do this strategy, follow this strategy, do
Right.
this lesson, start here. Nobody ever talks about make sure your mind is in order first, right? See, we don't realize how
Mm.
much we have been oppressed financially, right? And so the
Mm.
truth of the matter is self-fulfilling prophecies show themselves in your financial situations also, and we don't realize it. But the thing is, we're not
Ooh.
working on the mindset. So when the self-fulfilling prophecy, i.e., I'm never going to be good with my finances, I don't know how to manage money, my mama
Mm.
wasn't good at it, so I won't be good at it, my daddy wasn't good at it, so I won't be good at it. If we haven't worked on this, we're not going to be able to fight those. And the truth of the matter is, self-fulfilling prophecies win every day when it comes to financial literacy. And what troubles me is every guru and expert has every strategy, the 50-30-20 rule, the 70-20-10 rule,
Yes.
X
Yes.
amount on your principal, invest this amount each month. But
Right.
nobody's talking about making sure your mental is in order, right? The mental is very important and should be very important when we're talking about financial literacy, financial self-defense, financial wellness. So you really opened up my can there. That's what I've been researching a lot about here
Oh,
lately is
hey.
how the mindset impacts our financial trajectory. Because a lot of times what I found, a lot of people are scarred here more
Right.
than what they're really scarred on those financial statements that you see on a month to month. I've seen some really bad financial statements on a month to month basis, but I've
Mm.
seen it even worse here,
In their
right?
mind.
Because we don't know how to exercise here. It's always, well, they told me to do this strategy, they told me to do that.
Right.
Have you ever talked to yourself to talk down to those negative things that try to fill your mind up to tell you you can't do this? So that's the research I've been doing a lot on here lately. So that's what really has been getting me going here lately. And
Mhm.
the biggest thing that I would tell all single fathers, all single mothers, all single parents, all parents in general is to make sure your mindset is in place and then pass that down to your kids. Because the thing is, you about to get me started on this one. The thing
No,
about
go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
that is, man, a generational curse
Right.
passes down, right?
Right.
And I truly believe that mental illness pertaining to finances is something that can be passed down from generation to generation. So what we've got to realize is how can we make sure that if that's your attack, it stops right there with you and does not go down to the next Mycah, does not go down to the next Joey. You follow me?
Oh my
So
gosh.
that is where a lot of my work has been lately. It's targeting the mental aspect of financial literacy and how we can shift our mindsets to make sure that we can experience all that we want to in a financial realm. So
Wow. Man, ladies and gentlemen, if you got as much as I personally just got from that statement he just made, you please you subscribe, like, follow the channel. I got Mr. Gaylord is definitely coming back. I want to dive into the weeds with the mental aspect. Because
yes.
you are saying those things, literally, I was just thinking about my own personal thought process on just finances, and I sense the passion. Um, I can't thank you enough personally for taking some time out of your night. I want to thank you as a friend. as somebody that's doing much in the community that's going to be, valued, and that tree is going to grow, like you said, that you're planting it in our minds. So thank you again. Uh, man, I'm over at the notes that I just took. Oh my gosh.
And you took me down my
Hey,
avenue, man.
but that's the beautiful thing I think about these conversations. And how they just naturally happen, and the things that people are passionate about comes out. And I sense and I know that in you. I can't thank you enough. Appreciate you.
Yes, sir.
Um, I'll get back on your schedule here shortly to have a follow up. I definitely want to dive. I want to go in the weeds with the
Yes,
mental
sir.
aspect that we just talked about, because I feel the passion, one that you shared when I first met you, and tonight as we're talking. So thank you very much, brother. And you have a great rest of your evening. And I'm going to talk to you soon. Appreciate you much.
Yes, sir. You do the same, man. Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you very much.
You're
All right,
welcome.
Mike. Okay.